Okay, thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
And now we are closing this session to start the celebration. Thank you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. حضراتكم طبعا مشرفينا النهارده. Let's go to the opening ceremony and let's start with the conference guest of honor, Sir Michael Hurst. Sir Michael Hurst, please go.
Professor Shaltut, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's a very great pleasure to Is the microphone? Oh, the microphone is on now. Professor Shaltut, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's a huge pleasure to be back in Cairo again. I feel very much at home here because it's 7 years since I first came to Cairo and experienced the warmth of the welcome of AASD, the beauty of Cairo and the beauty of the country and the culture, museums and so on. And I think in particular the sense of purpose that there is in the Arab Association for the Study of Diabetes. And in that intervening years, I've seen the way in which this conference has grown, has attracted a wider and very distinguished range of international guests in its faculty, and has been able to perform an extremely important service in educating clinicians and healthcare professionals in this part of Egypt. All of this, I think, is attributable to the tireless work of Inas Shaltut, who seems to do an amazing number of things and still organizes an outstanding conference for professional diabetes education. So Inas, I start by congratulating you for all that you've achieved with AASD and a series of splendid conferences which have been very successful. I've just come from Lebanon, where I revisited some of the Syrian refugees whom I met last year. And I want to thank Inas as well for her work in helping refugees to cope with their diabetes, refugees in Egypt. How you manage to undertake all your professional responsibilities and do all of these things in us, I don't really understand, but you must organize your time extremely successfully. Now you, ladies and gentlemen, perform a vital role in helping to care for the many people in Egypt who have diabetes, estimated in the last IDF Atlas to be almost 8 million people. And helping people to live with diabetes and to avoid the damaging and life-threatening complications of that disease is down to the quality of professional care. And that is why a conference like this is so important in extending knowledge, in sharing experience, in discussing research findings, in enabling the clinician and healthcare professional to do their work to the best possible standard. But I also reflect that there are more than 3 million people in your country who have yet to be diagnosed, who have diabetes but have yet to be diagnosed. And they're the ones who are in danger of developing these life-threatening complications. So awareness continues to be a challenge and an important responsibility. It's a great pleasure, as I've said, to come back to Cairo, and I'm very touched that now that I'm no longer the president of IDF, I'm very touched that you invited me to the conference to become the conference guest of honor this year, and also to extend the invitation to my wife. I can tell you, living in a country where in October there is wind and rain and a poor climate, it is an absolute joy to come to a country where the sun shines every single day. So thank you for that. I want to end by saying to Ines that we are always impressed and touched by the care that she takes to make her guests feel thoroughly welcome and to receive us so hospitably. So for me, and I'm sure for all the other guests that are here, it's a real pleasure to be with you, and I hope that the conference this year is just as successful as in the 10 preceding years. Shukran.
The conference guest of honor, Professor Nam Han Chu, President-elect of the International Diabetes Federation. Please,
Good morning,
Professor Nam.
dear colleagues and ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to start out congratulating Professor Ines Shaltout for her to successfully nurturing AASD for more than 10 years. It is not just her motivation or desire or dedication. It's because of the belief and her warm heart to be able to nurture the organization more than 10 years to fight with the diabetes. The diabetes is the fastest growing non-communicable disease in human history. Every 6 seconds, one person died from diabetes. And every 2 seconds, there is someone somewhere diagnosed with the diabetes. All of you know the fact, based on the IDF 7th edition of Diabetes Atlas, there are more than 415 million people suffering with diabetes in the whole world. But if you add 50% of undiagnosed cases, it's more than 600 million people suffering with diabetes. But if you add pre-diabetes cases such as IFG, IGT, that number could easily accumulate more than 1.2 billion people they are suffering with diabetes or a high risk for diabetes. So MENA region, which includes Egypt, is not an exception. As you all know, more than 8 million people with diabetes in Egypt, and almost 80,000 people with diabetes dies every year. So it will be more problematic in your region than other part of the world. Because urbanization, sedentary lifestyle, child obesity, obesity in young adults, gestational diabetes, even the aging population in your country will put Egypt in high risk for diabetes in the future, and that number of diabetes will be continuously grow. But as you all know, AASD is doing a fine job nurturing diabetes. So in other words, we are winning the battle against the diabetes. However, we are losing a war against the diabetes. As you all know, the fact number of diabetes increase every year, which indicates definitely we are losing a war. So as a IDF global perspective, it is better to strengthen the region like the MENA region, also provide them more research funds, what funds they can fight better in their member associations such as AASD. They are doing a wonderful job. So fighting a war, you need more ammunition, you need more tank to fight. So that is our duty as an IDF Global Office to support your region to be better equipped to fight against the diabetes. So together, we could win the battle against the diabetes. We could win the battle and win the battle as well. So again, I'd like to congratulate Professor Ina Shaltad for successfully nurturing AASD to become a warrior in the front line of the war against the diabetes. Thank you very much, and shukran.
My dear lovely friend, Professor Sehnaz Karadeniz, Chair of the International Diabetes Federation Europe region. Professor Sehnaz.
Thank you so much for this wonderful introduction. So I want to start thanking Professor Inas Shaltad and the organizing committee for inviting me. I feel privileged to attend the annual conference of the Arabic Association for the Study of Diabetes and Metabolism for the second time. It was the first time was last year, and the second time this year, and I will always be very happy to be here back again. I feel privileged because this is not only a high-level scientific meeting about the research and developments in the field of diabetes, but the program also includes topics about the translation of current diabetes knowledge into the real life. Actually, this is the only way to make a positive change in the lives of people with diabetes and also prevention of diabetes in high-risk groups. As healthcare professionals, we have a big responsibility in this issue. On one side, as a must, we have to forward this knowledge to the patients, educate them so that they become part of the team with the patient at the very center, take active role and responsibility in managing his or her diabetes. On the other side, we should also forward this information to the decision makers and to the governments and make them understand that screening and timely treatment is the most cost-effective way in the long term. And more than this, it is the only way to reduce the human burden due to diabetes and related complications. Again, this year, I'm very much looking forward to listen to the distinguished speakers and the discussions with the participation of all attendees. So, as in the beginning, I again want to thank Professor Inas Shaltad for the invitation. Thank you.
Professor Nizar El-Basha, Chair of the International Diabetes Federation, MENA region. Professor.
Assalamu alaikum. First, also I would thank Professor Ina Shaltut for her nice invitation and all people helping and organizing this committee. I would say, you say in Egypt, when you drink the Nile water, you come back. I believe in that. I remember first time I visited Egypt 20 years ago to the first meeting in Alexandria to visit my old friend, and said Professor Morsi Arab at that time in my first visit, I said Egypt is my second country. Still Egypt today, my second country, when I almost lost my first country, Syria. So, coming to diabetes, as Nam told you, diabetes is a huge concern globally. 415 million people with diabetes today. In 2014, more than 600 people with diabetes. And you can get more figures about diabetes in the atlas. And I will take this opportunity to thank Nam for his effort to preparing the atlas, which is the most complete reference for epidemiology of diabetes worldwide. Please go to the website and download data from that. But what I am interested about, at regional level, coming to MENA region, look, we have more than 35 million people with diabetes in our region. The prevalence is very high. And also we have in our region at least 5 countries on the top of highest prevalence worldwide, the Gulf area, with 41% of undiagnosed diabetes. Besides, OGT, very high rate. Can you imagine how much of people need to be diagnosed with diabetes? We are missing a lot of them, and we have to work together to screen more people to get diagnosis for diabetes in this case. What is very important is when you look to diabetes, you have to look for your area, for your region, for your country. What are the issues that you have in your area? You cannot apply the same things, the same programs, the same plans worldwide. In our region, we have the first issue now we are facing some issues regarding diabetic people, refugees in some country, like Syrian, in Yemen, in Libya, in Iraq. So it's a huge problem, refugees in the area. Living with diabetes became more difficult when you are displaced or refugees somewhere. Second, we know about education and awareness. We talk about a lot, but we are now playing, you will hear about that this afternoon, how we can face this problem of awareness and education in our country. We need first to educate educators and then patients or people living with diabetes, and particularly increase awareness. What I would say, in our region, we have in Egypt a good example what we can do with the IDF and MENA region. We have now 3 associations dealing with diabetes in Egypt. The oldest one, Egyptian Diabetes Association. Now we have also AASD here in Cairo, and in Upper Egypt, another and third member association, Upper Egypt Diabetes Association. What I encourage to do is to work together. And in fact, there is a good harmony between them. I believe it's a good example for the IDF, how we can improve the life with people with diabetes when there is more than one member association and we can take care of diabetes doing all that. At the end, I would thank again Professor Ines Shaltut, because when we're preparing this scientific program, the question was what we can do together to prepare something to help people with diabetes in our region according to our local needs. Thank you, Professor Ines Shaltut, and thank you very much.
My dear professors and colleagues, it gives us a great pleasure to welcome you in the 11th Annual AASD Conference. On behalf of the AASD board and members, we appreciate a lot the support given to all AASD activities and the auspices of the Arab League to all our activities and conferences. We also appreciate the strong participation and support of the International Diabetes Federation and AASD as a member of the International Diabetes Federation. We usually feel a great responsibility on all AASD members to do extra effort for the cause of diabetes. And of course, we are very grateful to the guests of honor, Professor Naim Hanshaw and Sir Michael Hurst. Sir Michael Hurst the honorary president of the International Diabetes Federation and former president of the International Diabetes Federation, and Professor Namhan Cho, the president-elect of the International Diabetes Federation, who is going to lead the work of all the associations in the world in the coming 2 years. We also are very grateful. We are very grateful to our special guests, Professor Sehnez, the IGF European Region Chair, and Professor Nizar El-Basha, Chair of the MENA region, for their support and for taking too much of their time to be with us in the AASD conferences. We appreciate the presence of our eminent guests, speakers from the United Kingdom, Germany, Turkey, Korea, Croatia, and Arabic countries like Libya, Lebanon, Syria, and Morocco, for their presence to share in this, I hope, successful scientific event. Their participation added a great scientific value to the conference. On behalf of my colleagues, board members of the AASD, let me express my gratitude to all Egyptian professors and speakers who agreed to join us and co-chair the advisory board and national faculty in this scientific event, and looking forward to see all of you in the 12th AASD conference 2017, 10th of October to 12th of October 2017, inshallah. Let me now share with you a film about AASD in 11 years. You were part of activities of AASD, you as my guests, attendants and speakers and chairman, international faculty, and our advisory board. Let us see the video and film about AASD in 11 years. Please go.